Welcome to the Sports Bros Podcast, featuring the almighty B-Live, the money man, Scottie D, and your host, the head of creative, Eddy Kool. And without any further ado, here they are, the Sports Bros.
Hey, what's going on, world? This be your boy, Eddy Kool, a.k.a. the HOC of this here podcast, your new favorite sports podcast, the Sports Bros Podcast. That's right, independently owned, operated, we run this, and all that other stuff to let you know that, hey, we're not controlled by anybody, we're controlled by us, our thoughts, our feelings, and we're right and you're wrong. I'm sorry, that's MJF's line. But anyways, another episode of the Sports Bros Podcast, episode 72, coming at you live and direct. Back at it like bad breath in the morning. And of course, you know I can't do this by myself. Just like Michael Irvin, just like Troy Aikman, and just like Emmitt Smith, it all comes in threes. Introducing first, my co-host to my left, well, kind of sort of geographically left. Anyways, the almighty B-Live.
What's happening and what's going on in the world today that always has new meaning every single week? But man, let's start off first real quick. Head of creative, Eddy Kool, how dare you start off this podcast by referring to our threesome in reference to the Dallas Cowboys? Don't ever do that again. That's just not. That's in poor taste. But I mean, I get what you're trying to do. I guess I would be Michael Irvin in this situation. You'd be Emmitt Smith, and Scottie D would be Tony Romo because because he ain't won no championships yet. Troy, and this whole podcast thing. But it's all right. It's all right. He'll get there. He'll get to our level one day. You know. We got to carry him along. He's sort of old, but that's neither here nor there, and I digress. But I'm glad to be here with my fellas, and Eddy Kool, you can go ahead and introduce that other guy, that I'm talking about a little bit, that he's such a cowboy, America's team, blah, 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 whatever, 16-0, oh, my bad, I threw up in my mouth. Eddy Kool, Amtrak, go ahead.
Rain down salt on him. And the number one Dallas Cowboys fan that I know on this side of the Mississippi, the pride of Washington, Pennsylvania, and also itchy free this week, the money man, Scottie D.
Feeling good, and it's nice to have kick off this party with some Cowboy talk. For those of you who are joining us for a first or second time, we are three guys who are not sports experts. We're not former professional players or any of that good stuff. We're just guys who are fans talking about sports, and like a broken clock, sometimes I'm right twice a day, and like a slow clock who's never right, I have to keep B-Live up to speed a little bit here. So I got to get my brothers, these bros of mine, they're lucky to have me. And I also want to say, this is probably, B-Live's got to be pretty happy this week because on Friday, August 21st, the 33rd birthday celebrated of one of his all-time favorite athletes, Usain Bolt. One of his top 10 favorite. He's a fanatical Usain Bolt fan. Got the posters on the wall and all that good stuff. So happy birthday to Bolt coming up this weekend. And guys, I'm ready to talk a little sports. What do you think?
I think that what is so wrong with me having Usain Bolt as one of my top 10? The dude is insanely fast. Are you kidding me? But that's okay. That's okay. You got jokes today. You got jokes. It's all right.
Very respectable athlete. I like him. He's one of my favorites.
Wow.
One of your 10 favorites, actually.
Yeah, yes, he is. He's definitely up there. I meant what I said.
Yeah. I never finished my top 10 list. I think I had Ken Griffey number 1 and Doug Gilmore number 2, and I'll get to it. I just got to find more sports fans to tag.
The guys I had listed as my top 10 favorites are guys that would compete longer than like 12 seconds a year. That's just why I like guys who you watch 3 hours on Sunday or a baseball game for 3 hours, and B-Live likes the athlete who runs and 7 seconds later is Event's over. And that's neither here nor there. That's all right. Go ahead. Let's go. Come on.
Longevity and consistency. Be like, you saw you chomping at the bit. Get them before.
Let's just talk about. Man, disrespect.
Happy third, Usain Bolt.
He runs the 200 just as fast. That's 19 seconds. If that's better for you. Jesus Christ.
All right, you two. Quit fighting and let's talk about some real guys that fought for real this weekend. UFC 252, Las Vegas, Nevada with the headline fight, Stipe, DC, for the chip with the dip. The third installment of an epic classic of the 21st century, of the pugilistic, of the mixed martial arts. I'm going to be 100% honest with you, fellas. I do this thing called work on the weekends, and this fight was Saturday night, and I didn't have time to catch it. But today, I did catch some of the highlights. And Scottie D, lead us into what was at UFC 252.
Well, let me quick give a little bit of backstory to this because I know not every one of our listeners loves UFC. Actually had a young lady, Lindsay Ward McKinney, an old friend this past week, said that she really enjoyed our podcast. Not a huge sports fan, but she likes listening to some of the stories. So in that kind of that respect, I wanted to let everyone know kind of why this was such a big deal, because the UFC very rarely has two guys fight each other 3 times in a row. That's very rare they do that. Usually, once you win a title, you move on to another opponent. Kind of got to get back in line to fight someone else. But if you go back to 2010, Daniel Cormier was in Strikeforce as a light heavyweight. He was a former Olympian wrestler, and he entered a heavyweight tournament in Strikeforce and would later move over to UFC and compete as a light heavyweight. And around that time, Jon Jones in 2010 became the youngest UFC champion ever. Jon Jones, a lot of people look at it as the best fighter in UFC history, but as we know, over the past 10 years, he's self-destructed a little bit. He's DUIs, drug suspensions, arrests, all kind of things. And during that time, DC, Daniel Cormier, has basically taken up the mantle for the UFC in the light heavyweight division. He's been the marquee guy. He's been the guy who's fought all comers, and he just wins. He's not the flashiest, splashiest guy, but he just wins. Well, right around 2016, Stipe Miocic has carved out a nice little heavyweight career for himself, goes to Brazil and defeats the Brazilian heavyweight champion, Fabricio Verdum, and then defends the title 3 times, which had not been done before in heavyweight history, which brought us to his first fight back in 2018 with DC. And DC shocked us all by knocking out Stipe in the first round. They fought again last summer, and Stipe evened the score. He was losing that fight until the 4th round. He started punishing DC to the body, and then he knocked him out. And that's why this fight was such a big deal, because they're considering this to determine who the greatest mixed martial arts heavyweight was of all time. And this one went 5 rounds, and it was grueling because both men, I poked the other guy, and it was completely unintentional. It just, you put your hands up to stop someone from charging on you, and you catch a guy in the eye. It went to a decision. I personally thought that DC won the first round and the 5th round and lost the middle 3 rounds. And Stipe Miocic was rightfully named the winner of the bout and retained the championship. But the reason this was considered such a big deal is because these two guys both have been like really the heart and soul of the UFC towards the heavyweight division the last several years. You say 3 title defenses is the record. That doesn't seem like a lot when you have guys like Anderson Silva and George St. Pierre who have defended their titles so many times in the past in the lighter divisions. But this was a big deal for the UFC to determine who they can rightfully say on paper now is the greatest heavyweight champion in their short history. Now, there's other challenges coming down the road for Stipe. It looks like Francis Ngannou is going to be his next opponent. He's already defeated him once. And Ngannou now just looks like an unstoppable beast. So will he be able to hold him off a second time? I don't know. But B-Live sounds like another name might be getting thrown into the heavyweight division here in the UFC.
Well, yes. His name was mentioned earlier, but now it's become more prevalent because Jon Jones has relinquished the light heavyweight title and is looking to move up in weight to the heavyweight division. and is looking to renegotiate his contract in hopes to fight the champion. And so that's going to be an interesting take. We've already spoken about his checkered past, but it's one of those things where Jon Jones is one of the nastiest dudes in the octagon. So I think he's still a huge draw when it comes to the UFC. And it's one of those things where we sort of look at the UFC and they have their sort of like, they embrace the bad boys, so to speak. I mean, Conor McGregor's always been a huge draw. And so yeah, it's one of those things like now with Jon Jones, I mean, you can't deny his talent in the octagon. So it's definitely going to be very interesting to see how this comes to fruition and everything like that. But yeah, just to opine a little bit on what Scottie D was saying about the fight. I caught some of the highlights. I wasn't able to watch it live, but it was eye poke central, and it almost had a feel of a little bit of retaliation, but it wasn't intentional. But
I don't think either one was intentional. I mean, you can see when they super slow down the replay, you can see that neither guy. I mean, these guys are professionals, and these guys weren't like bitter, hated rivals. There's a lot of mutual respect between these two guys. Neither one wants to gouge the other guy's eye out, and it's very unfortunate that Cormier suffered. I think it was a scratched retina, and he said he had a hard time seeing out of his left eye during the late rounds. But it's one of those things in UFC that's so hard to control because they are constantly telling these guys, keep your fists closed. But your natural reactions often are when someone comes towards you, put your hand up to stop them, and your hands are open. And, unless they close the tips of the gloves to keep, the smallest part of the finger from going into your eye socket, there's just not much you can do about that other than, take a point deduction, something that, there's really nothing you could do. I mean, the referee flat out said he missed it and apologized. But what could he have done? I mean, he could have declared it a no contest, but would DC have wanted that? There's a good chance DC would have said, I'm going to fight through this anyway. I don't know. That's hindsight, but that's one of those unfortunate things about combat sports, like in boxing when you butt heads and crack each other open. It's just sometimes unfortunate things happen inside the cage.
I just say, man, things happen. Things happen. Go ahead, be live.
Oh yeah. Cormier was ended up being diagnosed with a torn cornea. Oh, actually, yeah. Ugh. So it was a little bit nastier.
It was nasty.
So yeah. So he said he couldn't see. He flat out said he couldn't see, and which is, again, like you said, very unfortunate. And it's one of those things. How really do you, when you're able to box and grapple in the same motion, how do you close your hand when you're like, there's so many factors in MMA. That's what makes it so intriguing, but yet it also adds to the dangerous factor. But again, that's why we watch MMA.
But see, it's also puzzling to me, though, when you hear how bad that injury was for Cormier. He fought his heart out. I mean, he never gave up even with that situation. But he's known as an Olympic qualified wrestler. He made an Olympic team, and he never took him down. And you would think, well, he did. I'm sorry, he took him down once in the first round and then went away from that game plan. And you could hear his corner urging him between rounds, let's get a takedown. Let's try to get him to the ground. You would think that would make him almost a little bit safer, because if he's not being able to see out of that left eye very well, that reduces your risk of getting punched if you're on top of the guy controlling the action. It just goes to show you just part of the courage and the determination of Daniel Cormier, who is basically saying he's done fighting now, but he has been an ambassador for UFC, and he will continue to do so in the announcement because he's great as an announcer. And so we look forward to seeing more of DC, but he went out on his sword, I could say.
Yeah, he did do that, man. DC, hell of an athlete, man. Like you said, he has a wrestling background, and then you got Stipe, who brings the chip back to Cleveland, the toughest fireman on the planet. And from what I saw from the highlights, man, it was a pretty good fight, man. No, it wasn't just a bunch of clutching and hugging and heavy breathing and trash talking. It was just a legitimate slugfest between two of the greatest heavyweights in the history of UFC. Another fight that happened last night, Marlon Vera and Sean Sugar O'Malley. And guess what? The Sugar Show came to a screeching halt as he suffers his first loss, and Marlon Vera picks up the win. Scottie D, what happened? Something stood out in that fight. Like, what really happened with the Sugar Show?
At some point, he injured his lower leg, and I'm not sure if it was the ankle, knee, but something gave out on him. He tried to get through the first round without really giving a clear indication of how hurt he was. He actually kind of took himself down before the stoppage happened, and Vera jumped on him and threw a couple elbows. I think it was stopped really quickly because I think Herb Dean, the referee, knew that there was more to what was going on with the Sugar Shane O'Malley than just the, he caught a couple elbows, and that didn't knock him out. He was, I think he knew that he had bigger problems, and that's why the stoppage was quick. But you can't fault the opponent for taking advantage. Somebody's hurt, you go after him. I mean, that's how fighting goes. But what a little disappointing because I was wanting to see a little bit more from O'Malley that night.
Yeah, because I remember you talking about the Sugar Show. I'm like, hey man, who we fight tonight? The co-main event? Oh, let's go see some Sugar Show. But it's unfortunate. And then we have Junior Dos Santos and Jarizano. I don't know if I butchered his name. Rosenstruck. He gets a win. And performance of the night goes to Daniel Pineda as he beats Herbert Burns. Yep. So we got a performer of the night. He got a little gold medal right here next to his name. He really kicked ass and does what he does.
And let's say this. If you're not a UFC fan, thank you for putting up with that segment. But if this would be a perfect time to jump into this, because I'm going to tell you what, Israel Adesanya is fighting Paulo Costa next month in what could be an enormously, fantastically entertaining fight. And I encourage you, if you're not a UFC fan, get on board with this one because this is going to be good.
The last style bender, ain't that right, B-Live?
Absolutely. My favorite MMA UFC fighter right now. I love his matches. Some people say he's too flashy. He's very technical.
He's good.
So I thoroughly enjoy his matches, and I will be glued to the television if my job allows me to watch this fight.
Bolt.
What's this, Scottie D?
Would you, this different sport?
Okay.
Stop it. Stop it.
Usain Bolt. Here we go. That Bolt, man. All right. Next up in the world of USC, Saturday, August the 22nd, we got Fight Night, headlined by Pedro Munoz and Frankie Edgar in a bantamweight bout. Should be a good one. Fellas. All right. And moving right along. And we roll. Hey, along to the NBA playoffs. The NBA playoffs are set, and we had a hell of a slugfest between the playing game between the Memphis Grizzlies and the Portland Trail Blazers, and the winner, they get to play the Lakers in the first round. And Grizzlies, try again, see it next year. And in the East, we got the Bucks versus the Magic, the Heat versus the Pacers, the Celtics versus the 76ers, and a game that was played earlier today, Monday because we record on Tuesday. Monday because we drop on Tuesday, correction. The Raptors defeat the Nets to go 1-0 in the series. And out west, we got the Lakers versus the Blazers, the Thunder versus the Rockets, and the Nuggets versus the Jazz. And the Jazz go down to the Nuggets, and the Nuggets take a 1-0 series lead, but it don't go down fighting. But they don't go down swinging as Donovan Mitchell drops 57 points in a losing effort, the third most in NBA history in the playoffs. And then we got the Clippers and the Mavericks. Fellas, here we go. We got playoff basketball. Enough of this bubble mess. What are we looking forward to?
I can tell you right now, I'm looking forward to the Blazers upsetting the Lakers.
Woo!
I'm upset alert. I feel like the way the Blazers are playing is they're playing inspired. I think they're playing all around team ball right now. it is Dame time. It's a radio show, but if you can see me tapping my imaginary watch right now, it is Dame time. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I want to hold it in because the Blazers, they're like my favorite team right now to watch. And there's a couple other segments that I'm gonna plug in here, but I'm telling you, it's almost like the perfect storm what the Blazers have going right now. And I don't think the Lakers have enough depth to stop what the Blazers are doing right now. You're gonna have to have almost flawless games from both LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and we've already seen in this bubble that when they go cold, they go cold. And just that I don't see the depth on the Lakers bench to be able to hold down the way that the Blazers are playing. I think it's going to go 7. I think it's going to go 7 games.
All right, what you think, Scottie D, about your Lakers versus B-Live's favorite team to watch at the moment, the Portland Trail Blazers?
I got to be honest, I would feel a whole lot better if they had a home court advantage, and there really is no such thing in this bubble. The Lakers, you almost feel like they were waiting to flip the switch that never came on during their little bubble time here. And Portland was playing with urgency the whole time. They had to. You know, they were not in the position where the Lakers were already settled in. All right, but can the Lakers flip the switch on a team like Portland? That's the big question, because Portland is playing outstanding. Enough to get to where they need to be anyway. Now we'll see. The Lakers, before we went into the quarantine, the Lakers actually were starting to gel together. They need to find that again. You know, maybe Vogel was playing around with lineups a little bit too much during the bubble games. I think a big part of this is actually going to be Danny Green, because the Lakers' 3-point shooting was atrocious since they started to come back down in Florida. And that's a guy who they really need to stretch the floor to open things up. They got to knock down threes, and Danny Green's a big part of it. I know in their last game, and I hate that I can't remember who I was watching them play, but Kyle Kuzma had an outstanding game and kind of came out of his shell a little bit. It's going to be really, I think, more like B-Live was saying, the role players beyond AD and LeBron to win this. Having said that, I think over the course of 7 games, the Lakers can right the ship. They can win this. And I think they can get on the kind of roll that will get them all the way to the championship. Now, I mean, you know, I picked that in the preseason. Them and the Bucks were my pick. I think I still like that. The Clippers look awfully good. But again, so do the Blazers. It's kind of cool, though, because the last few years we knew Golden State was going to be in the finals, and we know that they are not this year. So it's kind of like an open tournament feel the way it's going on down there, where you know, you have only a handful of teams you think are going to be able to do it. In the East, can Toronto actually pull it off again? Can they get by Milwaukee? Does Boston, Philly, they have anything in there? I don't know. This is going to be interesting to see. But I think really this Lakers-Blazers matchup is as compelling as it gets in these playoffs.
Yeah, that is one of the more compelling matchups, because I'm like, oh, this Lakers-Blazers thing, because you remember what happened last year, you know, Dame Dollar waved bye-bye to Russell Westbrook, and then he wound up in Houston. So, yeah, stone cold Dame Dollar is over here playing some out-of-his-mind basketball, like literally out of his mind. I'm like, man, we in this bubble, and he's playing like they're at the Motor Center, like playing some real deal basketball. As far as the East goes, like I said earlier, we had an earlier game. We had the Raptors defeating the Nets. They're probably going to bust out the broom on them, and the Raptors are like, look, don't forget, we still got a championship to defend. We still here, like, you know, we're here. You know, yes, you got the Bucks and everybody else, but we're here though. And then we got the Classic Series between the Celtics and the 76ers. They meet for the 11th time in playoff history. That's another interesting series. Another series I'm gonna keep my eye on is this Heat and Pacers series. Yeah, we got
sneaky good.
Say it again, Scott.
I said the Heat are sneaky good. They're a sneaky good team.
Yeah, they're sneaky good, man. They're sneaky good, man. They got all the parts that they need. They play some real good sound basketball, and you know, think about it. People, oh man, whatever. You know, Miami's not gonna do nothing. I mean, don't count them out, man. They got some shooters. They got the kid Hero, and I forgot the other kid name. And Miami looks pretty good, but Playoffs, fellas, playoffs, and Giannis will be back from his headbutting suspension. Yeah, so we got some playoff basketball to look forward to.
When it comes to the Heat versus the Pacers, it's literally the matchup between Jimmy Butler versus T.J. Warren. That, like, T.J. Warren's playing ridiculous right now. Like, if I was to say top 3 players in the bubble right now, I'd put Dame Dollar number 1. I would put what's my man from Phoenix? Devin Booker number 2, TJ Warren number 3. Honest God, that would be my top 3 in the bubble right now. TJ Warren is putting up ridiculous numbers, but and there's also that there's a little rivalry that Jimmy Butler and TJ Warren have, a little jarring of the words, so that's going to be a very intriguing matchup. I think Miami comes out on top, but don't sleep on anybody. I think when it comes to the Celtics, 76ers, I think 76ers are just too injured right now. Joel Embiid's hurt. Glenn Robinson III is hurt right now. So I just think the younger team, when it comes to Boston Celtics, I think they will rise top there. It's playoff basketball. This is what we live for right here. This is what's going down. Let's get it. Let's go.
That's it. That's what's going down for Full Flat Ties. We got some playoffs, fellas. Playoffs. And as I said, there were some games played earlier because we record on Monday and drop on Tuesday. Yes, we tell you how the sausage is made. It is what it is, but it's okay. It's okay. It's not no big secret like I won the lottery. We're supposed to tell that. I am so lying. Do not inbox me for no freaking money. Moving right along to the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs, and it's getting hot and heavy. Fights, 15 inning overtime games. Is wild hockey. They're also in a bubble too, and 0 new cases of coronavirus. Yes. So it gives us hockey in the East. The Flyers lead the Montreal Canadiens 2-1. The Tampa Bay Lightning, they lead the Blue Jackets 3-1, and hopefully they'll close the series out because you know what happened last year. In the biggest surprise of the Eastern Conference playoffs, the Washington Capitals are down 3-0 to the New York Islanders. The Capitals are on the verge of getting that broomski. Ooh.
Not again.
Yeah.
Not again.
Yeah, they on the verge of getting that broomski. And then we got the Boston Bruins and the Carolina Hurricanes, one of the most physical series in the playoffs. Boston leads 2-1. Svechnikov is injured. Tuukka Rask says, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and opt out. And Pasta for the Bruins, he's out as well, too. That game's being played tonight. Let's go Hurricanes. Let's go even this thing up. Out west, we got the Vegas Golden Knights. They lead the series against the Chicago Blackhawks 3-1. They should be able to put them out with ease. The Colorado Avalanche lead the Arizona Coyotes 2-1. Dallas and Calgary knotted at 2-2 apiece. And the St. Louis Blues and the Vancouver Canucks, they lead the series 2-1. Fellas, this here playoff hockey has been exciting too.
I gotta ask, Scottie D, help me out a little bit. What is up with the Vegas Golden Knights? This is their second season. They went to the Stanley Cup in their inaugural season, and now they're right back at it doing what they do. But what is going on? They got a lucky horseshoe.
I think this is their third season, but yeah, they went the first year and missed last year. And to be honest with you, I don't care, man.
Wow! It ain't the Penguins.
I asked you for just a little bit of analysis.
No,
and you give me fandom. You give me fanboy. Like, God, I was just trying to lift your spirits, be unbiased for 1 second. And
1 second.
Okay, let me.
No, I don't even want to hear it anymore. You ruined it. You freaking ruined it. God.
He ruins everything.
3 assistant coaches got fired for the Penguins, and that's all I can tell you.
Yeah.
I read that too.
So
Eddy Kool just told me. I thought hockey season was over.
Come on, Scottie, you don't do
Hey,
it to
let me ask you guys this. So we've been watching hockey playoffs and NBA playoffs with no fans. Is that bothering you guys at all? Not having
Well,
fans. Does it feel like we're really missing out on something? Because I kind of sense that we are.
I talked to somebody a while back, and they said they try to watch. I know we're talking about hockey and basketball, but they talked about baseball, and it was like I can't do it.
It's tough.
It's tough. I can't.
Baseball is tough to watch with no fans.
Yeah.
It's with basketball and hockey. Those two sports have always had a lot of like the organ, the music playing. Just it's the constant motion that keeps it going. That's a little bit more, gives you a little bit more intrigue, and it's all in something that also helps both basketball and hockey, that they're indoor sports. So any type of sound is piped through. Like you get to hear, you hear the freaking one-timer shots in hockey. You hear the screeching of the sneakers and the swish of the nets in basketball. You hear that, and that's part of the game that keeps moving. Baseball, dun 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 dun.
And it's bigger. Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And then one pitch. All right, let's throw it back. Let's spit on my hand.
Can't do that. Can't do that because of everything.
I know.
But yeah,
chewing sunflower seeds,
flipping the rosin bag.
Right. It's baseball is such a slow moving sport. Baseball is literally, you need the fans, and and even on top of that, also with baseball, is that nobody watches baseball until September. I don't care how much of a fan you are.
True.
Like nobody does. I love my Braves, but you don't catch me until late August, early September where I'm actually interested. So I'm just sitting here right now. You look at the baseball standings, and it's like the Marlins have played 5 games while the Braves have played 17. And so you got to wait for these postponed games. You don't even know what's really going on. And this could change at the drop of a hat, and just all these postponements and
tons of injuries too, man.
Yeah, it's like,
so yeah, baseball is hurting to me right now.
It's not as been as pleasant to watch, I don't think. And I watched the Yankees Red Sox game on Sunday night, and you guys know very well I'm not a Red Sox fan. I love the Yankees. It seemed kind of empty a little bit. It just didn't feel as fulfilling, I guess. Maybe I think that was the 9th game in the row the Yankees won over the Red Sox, and it just didn't feel as fun as if there had been fans in the stands. It's definitely missing the fans, I think.
Yeah, that's the rivalry, man. Like, Yankees, Red Sox, that's the rivalry. And then, Mets, Braves, that's the rivalry. And then, you also have Chicago, the battle of the city of Chicago between the White Sox and the Cubs. That's a rivalry. Like, a lot of these rivalry games, it's like, yeah, they're just out there just playing baseball. And I mean, it's playing baseball. But I would never imagine in a while that the Boston Red Sox are 6-16.
Oh, hallelujah.
Or 6-16. Scottie D, I think your Pirates, aren't they on a abbreviated break as of right now?
I tell you what, the COVID's keeping the loss total down for these guys, because they had, I think, 4 games canceled with the Cardinals. They played 2 with the Reds, and the Reds, again, they were affected by the virus as well. So the Pirates have only played like 2 games out of the last 8 days or something like that. So yeah, and I mean that's tough thing too. And you're playing baseball, you're playing pretty much every day, and to have these constant interruptions, crazy, man. It's a weird season to watch.
Weird season watching. The Rockies are pretty good this year, and then we got the Marlins leading the freaking division. And you know what happened when the Marlins decide they want to be good whenever they want to be good, and then they're gonna win championships and then break the whole team down, and then we're to their fly smash. You know how that works. But baseball. Well, like you said, like back to your question, Scottie D. For me, hockey and basketball, they're very enjoyable to watch. because just as Be Live opined upon, there's constant movement, constant motion. I'm paying attention to, I'm paying attention to somebody in the low post or somebody in the crease or somebody about to get into a fight. There's always something going on. The camera, there's steady motion. It's not like a standstill like baseball. It's not just standing there.
I can see that, and I also think the NBA has done a good job with the virtual fans. I think that does actually bring a little bit more to the game. When you see the different people being almost look like a Zoom Brady Bunch thing. They got scoreboard going on where you can see different fans interacting electronically. I think that's kind of cool. I think they've done well with it. It just seems like and maybe it's the way the benches are spread out. It just seems like there's people there, at the NBA game, and various employees and stuff. Like I said, a baseball stadium, there's so many more empty seats than there are in an NBA arena or even like the small setting with hockey. I even think like the UFC and the PGA have felt different, but not as noticeable as baseball. I think baseball is the one that feels the hollowest of them all, if I could use that word as a description.
Yep. Especially when you're watching UFC and somebody gets hit real hard and one guy goes, "Oh," and he's the only one going, "Oh." It's like, oh, I'm just watching the fight in my living room. But dig this, fellas. I don't know if you've heard, but we got a little bit of WWE news to report. SummerSlam 2020 was originally scheduled to take place at the TD Garden in Boston, Massachusetts, but due to Rona Mania brother running wild, it got pushed back. No large-scale gatherings, but the good old state of Florida, where somehow, some way, professional wrestling is considered essential, on August 23rd, 2020, SummerSlam will take place at the Amway Center in Orlando, Florida.
Yeah, I guess they're going to try to have a small crowd like the other, like the AEW wrestling does. I don't know.
It's interesting to see, and as far as that performance center, you got to fumigate that thing, man. Everybody get out. We get whole new equipment. Take your stuff. Matter of fact, leave your stuff in here. We're gonna burn it. We're gonna do something. But yeah, we for the first time since what was the last pay-per-view? Since the Royal Rumble, we're gonna have a WWE pay-per-view in an arena. So that should be very interesting to see. Well, fellas, so far on this podcast, we done talked about UFC, some real fighting, basketball, the Stanley Cup playoffs, sprinkle a little bit of wrestling news. But guess what time it is, fellas? It is time for our favorite portion of the show. And with that being said, hey, yo, button, hit it.
And now, our favorite part of the show, the choices of the voices.
Once again, thank you to the wonderful and ever so lovely Miss Button for introducing our favorite portion of the show, the choices of the voices. Now, Scottie D is the originator of the choices of the voices, and all shout out goes to him too. But Button also has a role in it too with the introduction. And you guys, the listeners, the Trey Dukes, the Joe Gaffkins, the terrible Pete Talansky's, the Uncle Max, all y'all, and even Jenna Clem, cannot forget Jenna Clem, the only person in the history of the Sports Bros podcast to get in the penalty box and get out the penalty box. So she deserves a jersey to get hung up. But anyways, it's all for you, the listeners, of the choices of the voices. And Scottie D, what is the question for this week's Choices of the Voices segment?
All right, the question I posed for the week was, of all these sports personalities that you see, TV, radio, podcast, wherever the media takes you, whose opinion do you respect or value the most? Now, B-Lab had a little bit of issue on this, on how some of these questions were answered. So, Eddy Kool, fire up the grill and let's feast on this. See where we go here.
Fire up the grill, man. That sounds good. When this thing get over with, man, we need to have us a Sports Bros cookout where we just.
All right, I like it.
We'll just cook food and talk sports. But coronavirus, you got to get the hell on, man. You got to go bother somebody else. Go bother some fish in the ocean or something. But anyways, let's get into it. Choices of the voices. Will Berry, he said Steve Smith Sr. He was an analyst on the NFL Network, or he still is. So, he talks that talk. He talks that talk. Uncle Max gave us a throwback. He said Gordon Soley, a.k.a. the Dean of Professional Wrestling. Because when Gordon Soley talked, we listened. Joe Gafkin, he said, I grew up reading Tony Kornheiser and Michael Wilbon in the Washington Post, and PTI was a game changer. Scott Van Pelt is my current favorite. He grew up in my neighborhood and always shouts out the great state of Maryland and Terps Nation. Okay, so we got some SVP action. Paul Blust, he said, I've always liked Jalen Rose and Herm Edwards. I know Edwards is back coaching now, but prior to his current job, I love listening to his analysis. If there's one thing I learned from Herm Edwards, don't press send.
Don't press in.
Don't press send.
You play to win the game.
Yeah, it's just Herm Edwards is just like, he's your daddy's brother, not your mama's brother, but he is your daddy's brother when he talks like, hey man, I better listen to Herm Edwards, man, because he might be saying some real important stuff, and I don't want to miss it. I really do not want to miss it. Moving right along, we got Trey Dizzle. What's happening, baby? He said, I absolutely love Shannon Sharp. Uncle Shay Sharp, do something for two something. He is hilarious. I am never more entertained watching people talk about sports when it's Shannon Sharp. A very close second would be the combination of Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal. That's a very interesting combo. You got a little Shaq and Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley told Shaq, I'll throw a chicken wing so fat ass, you keep it up. Yep, very interesting combo. Charles Barkley and Shaq. Mark Old says Tony Romo. Yes, Tony Romo, the new commentary sensation for CBS Sports, who CBS Sports threw the bag at him so ESPN would not get him. Because if ESPN would have got him, it would have been a coup. Oh, yeah, matter of fact, ESPN has a new three-man booth for Monday Night Football. Steve Levy, Brian Greasy, and Louis Riddick. I think that's pretty good. What y'all think? Y'all think that's pretty good trio?
I think we have to wait and see. That's one of those things. It's sometimes things sound good, and then the chemistry on air isn't that good. So that's a wait and see on my part.
Yep, definitely a wait and see. Martin Tracy, here we go. The legendary Matty Ice, and he says Stephen A. Smith. I know so many people cannot stand this guy, and he brings the shtick too much sometimes, but I do think he keeps it real. And like another favorite of mine, Sir Charles Barkley, isn't ever afraid to say what he thinks or feels to hell with the political correctness. They both brought real life issues to the conversation that transcends sports, whether they are talking about the OJ trial, race, or personal DUIs. That's what I like about them. However, I really admired the back and forth chemistry between Mike and Mike, Greeny and Golick. They had a great run. I was sad when it ended on such a sour note. I remember listening to their first show at work. I forgot whose spot they replaced, but I instantly liked them. They also had that personal touch as well, too. All right, and we got shout out to Will, Uncle Max, Joe, Paul, Trey Dizzle, Mark, and Martin Tracy for their participation in this week's Choices of the Voices. But before we go any further, Be Live, you had a bone to pick with the listeners, and that was?
I think there was a slight situation where we get caught up in the personalities and the entertainment value, but that wasn't the question. The question was, who do you respect when you listen to them? Not necessarily who entertains you the most. Who do you respect? Because there's a lot of answers where they're entertaining. Like Shannon Sharp, Shannon Sharp's character, his banter is absolutely like it's entertaining. His when he talks real life issues, that's the part that I can see where the respect value comes in. Stephen A. Smith, again, like he's a character. He's a sports personality more than somebody I respect. When it comes to when I watch First Take, I don't watch First Take for his expert analysis. I don't watch First Take because of his expertise and I'm not saying I don't respect the man, but it's one of those things where his opinions a lot of times is just like, what exactly are you talking about? He's entertaining. So that's why I was like, I was reading some of the answers. I'm like, are you guys more looking at people that entertain you the most? And so my answer, and this is going to come to a shocker, and we've been talking a little bit here and there. I am going to agree with Mark Olds. I absolutely enjoy and literally, like, when it comes to analysis and respect, Tony Romo, I think, has changed the game when it comes to expert analysis. Like, literally listening to him and how he dissects a play before it even hits the field. He's already picking apart what's about to happen and is calling it in real time.
Yep.
And that's what, like, a very close second would be Mike Emmerich from NHL.
Doc, yes. Doc, yes.
Yeah, Doc.
But don't you know he's more like of a play-by-play guy?
But
I get opinion.
But maybe I'm misinterpreting. But when it comes to, like, somebody like play-by-play analysis, you hear a lot of different play-by-play, and you, like, more times when it comes to play-by-play, it's tough to do play-by-play because you've got to know every single player that's out there, numbers, names, and you got to know this on the fly. You got to be able to announce it. But the fact that not only is Tony Romo able to announce what's going on and who's on the field and everything, he's also able to pinpoint the particular play that's being called, being able to predict what's happening, and he's giving you a next level analysis of what's going on. So I'm literally, every time he's talking about the game, I'm just like, oh, wow. And it has me just in awe of the intelligence level that he has. Now, if you could
research there too, so you're right. You have to respect that as well. The time put in to be able to make those calls on the air so quickly.
So yeah, that's one thing. That's where I was like, that I had to really think about this because, like, him, Doc Emmerich, and also someone else that I would think would be very interesting doing play-by-play analysis is Peyton Manning. And, like, he had to show detail that I've watched, and just the way he's able to pin. But it'd be interesting to see if he is able to do that play-by-play, because he could dissect, like, watching film and everything. But that's one thing I think Tony Romo has that next level, because he's doing it on the fly. He's doing it real time and I'm like, wow. So that my respect level for Tony Romo is leaps and bounds when it comes to the sports personalities and experts and commentators that we have out there today. My hat's off to Tony Romo.
Scottie D, who you got?
Well, I can see the different ways that this would be interpreted, and that's fine. However you wanted to interpret it is, I get that. I was thinking more along the lines by posing a question of the guys who you're getting opinions from on a regular basis, such as Charles Barkley, who I respect tremendously. I love listening to his thoughts and analysis and stuff. There's a guy. I occasionally will watch Colin Cowherd on Fox Sports 1.
Boo.
Well, I get that I find him more as the entertainment kind of guy, but when he brings Chris Broussard on to do NBA stuff, that guy, he could tell me anything about the NBA and I'm buying in. Chris Broussard has just such a great grasp and delivery on when he's discussing NBA. But when you watch all these things, all these guys, all these gals on all these mediums, and then you put on ESPN in the evening and you watch Pardon the Interruption, it gets no better. There's nobody who I respect more than Michael Wilbon. I think he is the absolute top dog. And maybe because Kornheiser's with him, I could say 1A and 1B. But it's just, when I watch those guys, it's like, oh, a breath of fresh air. This Mike Wilbon's perspective and delivery and respect and in-depth knowledge and experience, I think, is absolutely second to none. So even in this day and age where we get a lot of these political issues and stuff that it just absolutely just exhausts me on a day-to-day basis on all these sports outlets, when I hear Mike Wilbon, I'm more inclined to respect what he says, and even Tony, what he says. And so I think Joe Gaffigan nailed it because he actually chose the SVP's another guy, like Joe said, that I really have a lot of respect for. But I think the guy whose opinion I would value the most is Wilbon, and then probably Kornheiser right there. Those on that show.
I'm gonna say this real quick. Thank you, Scottie D. Because something I've missed throughout all of this Corona situation. I miss watching PTI.
Yep.
I haven't watched PTI in such a long time, and the reason why is that I'm literally never off from work. Either whether I work in morning or evening time, 5:30. Is that still the time that it comes on now, or is it within that 4:00 spot now?
Those like 20-minute segments I've seen through.
Mm-hmm.
I don't watch it religiously either, like I used to. It used to be 5:30 every day after Around the Horn, and I honestly I don't know either at this point. But I did watch them again a couple times in the last few weeks, and that's what kind of made me think of them. Just because I feel like they're the standard bearer of the industry. If us three as a show could say who would you like to resemble the most, I would think our styles aren't like them, but I would like to think that we could be objective and come across to listeners in a way that you can kind of see their perspectives on things. I feel like I have more of an open mind listening to them, and that's kind of what I would like our listeners to be with us, is to feel like, these guys are entertaining, but they also are not going to, kind of shove an agenda down our throat. They're going to be open-minded and that kind of thing. So I think they're the standard bearer. I really do.
The agenda here at the Sports Bros Podcast is to be the alternative and keep it strictly sports. That's all we want to do. That's the agenda that we want to push. If we're going to push any agenda, it's going to be that one. Nothing political, nothing too crazy. Out of the way, left, right, center, donkey, horse, pony, cat, monk. No, we just here to talk about sports.
I love the way you put that, and that's why I definitely wanted to opine on what Scottie D said, because PTI out of all of the sports talk shows is definitely my favorite, and I miss it because I haven't seen an episode. It could easily be 6 months just because of it.
I'm sorry, I had to get it in. My bad.
Think of how long they've been doing this now. They've been probably right around 20 years, maybe not quite 20 years.
Sniffing 20 years, yeah.
But that particular show, I mean, those guys obviously were already veterans in the covering sports whenever they got that show put together. And I think it was probably, if I was to guess, it was around 2002 or 3, somewhere in, without looking it up. But, they've stood the test of time. And I think it's the way that they carry themselves and don't go over the top.
Yeah. I got several of them, man. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you, man. I'm going to have to go with Shannon Sharpe, because Shannon Sharpe gives that perspective. And I mean, yeah, he cut up. There's a performance to that. There's a performance aspect to Shannon Sharpe, and the thing about it is that's how he's always been. Just from I'm pretty sure you've seen it ad nauseum or 1,000 times. Hello, is this the president? Yes. Call the National Guard. We are killing the Patriots. I mean, that is Shannon Sharpe. That's who he is, and it's just 100% authentic and real. If you guys ever get a chance, it's a 2-hour interview. It's the Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson podcast. Was it We Want the Smoke or All the Smoke or whatever? It is worth that 2-hour listen, because you learn so much about who Shannon Sharpe is as a person and where he came from and everything. So Shannon Sharpe gives a very interesting perspective, and I respect a lot of what he says. Also, you have to throw into the mix Tony Kornheiser and Mike Wilbon, as we just talked about, for the various reasons we opined upon as well too. and then you didn't see this one coming, but Louis Riddick.
He's good. He's
Oh, yeah.
solid.
I was going to mention that when you mentioned the what was it, the Monday Night Football lineup.
Mm-hmm.
I was like that. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, he's definitely up there for me as well. Very, very well informed, just the way he comes across, and like he's again one of those people that he's about business. Like he just spits facts about sports. He's I said you have your personalities, and then you have your commentators, your experts, and Louis Riddick is definitely one of the people I'll definitely stop and listen to. And Chris Broussard also, you mentioned him, Scottie D. That's another one. Like he is definitely well versed when it comes to the NBA. So,
absolutely,
he's a little loud as hell, but he's well versed.
he does it when he starts talking NBA. I listen, and I hope that Riddick will translate to Monday Night Football, because you know you see him as more of a guy he has a very serious side to him. Yeah, I could see him being a team executive. You know, who knows how long he lasts on Monday Night Football. But I hope that his style will translate on, you know, to the actual booth during football games. We'll see, man. I mean, it's that's interesting. But he's another guy who's you know, I could definitely listen to him talk and give a lot of respect.
Yeah, didn't Louis Riddick recently turn down an executive job?
I think he was considered for some, and I'm not really sure how that all went down.
Yeah, I forgot who in the hell. I don't know who it was, but they were like, "Look, we got to have this guy." And you want smart people. You want you want smart people to run your organization, and there's no doubt about it, man. Louis Riddick is like top of the pops when it comes to being smart. I'm over looking at his Wikipedia, and it says he's 6'2" tall, same height as Jason Garrett. Somebody's being funny, but nevertheless. Louis Riddick, Shannon Sharp, Tony Romo, Next Level Stuff, and I like Herm Edwards too. Yeah, Herm Edwards, like I said, that's not your mama's brother. That's your daddy's brother.
And I think we have unanimous when it comes to Kornheiser and Wilbon. I think that's unanimous that out of everybody, like that definitely is top notch. I want to mention this is an honorable mention that I just thought about. Kirk Herbstreit.
Herbie.
When it comes to college football, he's definitely one of those people as well that I definitely like. His expert analysis. I'm glued to the TV. I feel like I learn something every time I watch him and I listen to him. So he's definitely up there on my list as well.
Scottie D mentioned one last week, Peter Gammons.
Yeah, when he was doing, there was a time that anything he would say about baseball was gospel.
Yep. How do you feel about Tim Kirchin? Let me stop. Tell me.
Look, guys, there's a lot. We could go on all day and pick guys that are really good, but I just think when it comes to the cream of the crop, it's Wilbon and Kornheiser, and I think they've established that. And I don't know anybody who doesn't like those guys. You hear a lot of people say, you know, Stephen A is annoying, Max is annoying, and blah, blah, they yell and do all this. You don't get that yelling and screaming with these two guys. You just get straight, unique perspective, and you can tell they enjoy doing that with each other. They're having fun when they're on their show. So that's what I'd like to be with. Like, you know, we have fun doing our show. They're the standard bearers.
Yeah. Well, I could tell you right now, Scottie D, that's not how I operate, because I'm animated. So I mean. But I apologize. You can't kick me off the show. You invited me on the show.
Yes. Another interesting, entertaining, and action-packed and informative edition of the Choices of the Voices. Scottie D, what we got for next week's question as the Choices of the Voices turns?
Well, we are about to get into football season, and when you are almost into NFL season, that means you are in fantasy football season. And we're going to be doing a little bit more talking about that coming up. But for the Choices of the Voices next week, I want to throw this one out there to all you fantasy football lovers. Who is the all-time fantasy football stud? Who did you love to have on your team? Who did you want? And, I mean, who knows how long you've been playing? This could be just a recent history or long-term. Who did you feel was your all-time fantasy football stud?
Oh,
Man.
That's a good one. I'm going to have to dig in the archives for that one.
Right. And with that being said, perfect timing, Scottie D. Let me segue into that, because we're coming up to the second annual Sports Bros Fantasy Football League. The draft is coming up August 31st at 9 p.m. For those that are interested, those that would like to return to the greatness that is the Sports Bros Fantasy Football League, hit us up via email or messenger saying that you're coming back or you are interested in joining our league. It will be on Yahoo, where before it became the Sports Bros Fantasy Football League, it was the Cool Football League, where your boy, the almighty B-Live, is a 3-time champion, and the head of creative, Eddy Kool, is a 0-time champion of his own league. I see.
But you keep on coming back.
When I tell you this is the most entertaining league that I've been a part of, I thoroughly enjoy it. I think we've been doing it, what, I want to say like 9-10 years now.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so this is the second annual Sports Bros Fantasy Football League. But like I said, the Cool Football League, oh my God, it's been fun. Quick shout out to Big Pun. I think he's a 2-time champion.
Yep.
I want to say what my boy Sean.
Yep, Sean McKenna. Yep.
Sean McKenna. Sound Up Now.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. He's definitely been with us for quite a bit, and man, I'm excited about it. I think Bruce and was Bruce part of the league last year? I want to say Bruce was.
Who won last year? Corey Turner. He won last year. He's going to come back and defend his title.
And then what was $5 Buster?
Yep, Skip. He gonna make a comeback. He gonna make a comeback too. Yep. So hey, look at that. We done rattled off 5 names. So we doing 10 or 12. We're doing 10 or 12. We'll let y'all know in the days to come. But yeah, send them invites and send them in early because spots fill up quick. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to introduce a brand new segment to the show. Now, we got the penalty box for people to do dumb and stupid things. But this time we want to honor those that do good things, great things, and just plain kick ass in the world of sports. Introducing this week's version of the MVP of the week. The MVP of the week is we find a player that had an outstanding performance and a wonderful week in the world of sports. And I'll go first. My MVP of the week goes up to Jusuf Nurkic of the Portland Trail Blazers. He scored 22 points and 21 rebounds as his Portland Trail Blazers defeated the Memphis Grizzlies to get into the playoffs. But it wasn't just an ordinary performance because Nurkic found out mere hours or minutes before the game that his grandmother passed away from the COVID-19. And guess what he did? He showed up and showed out to the tune of 22 points, that's right, and 21 rebounds. That's right, Jusuf Nurkic. B-Live, who's your MVP of the week?
Man, I feel a little torn because not only did Eddy Kool dip into like I said, my favorite team right now to watch, the Portland Trail Blazers. So I'm a little bit torn, but I'm going there as well. And right now I'm torn between CJ McCollum and Carmelo Anthony. The easy answer would be Dame Dollar. I mean, that Dame time, he would be the easy answer. But you can't do it alone. And there's a lot of people that counted out Carmelo Anthony. And I mean, but the past 3 games, he done dropped 20 on them boys. When a lot of people done wrote him all the way off.
Clean off.
Max Kellerman had to go on air live and apologize to this man because he said that his career was done. He was washed up and he couldn't be a role player. You're wrong. You're wrong. He's shooting 56% on catch and shoot threes in the bubble. 56% catch and shoot. That was never Carmelo Anthony's game. He was an ISO player, but he's adapted and come in this bubble, and he is a danger to the Los Angeles Lakers backcourt. I'm going to tell you that right now. CJ McCollum has been playing with a broken back. Homage to Mike Tyson on the post-game interview when they beat Memphis. He said, my back is broke. Spinal. I was like, no. I was like, oh, man, that's MVP stuff right there. MVP of the week. But I'm going to give I'm leaning, and I'm going to give I'm tipping the hat. MVP of the week goes to Carmelo Anthony, because he could have folded and said, you know what? No team wants me. I think I still got it. And Portland took a chance. And I guarantee you right now, if Portland makes it past the Lakers, I think they've got the momentum on their side. I think they got the team chemistry, and it's going to be because of the play of Carmelo Anthony. My MVP of the week.
Yep. Also remember, Atlanta paid him not to play for them. So, yeah, just remember that.
Yeah.
I gave him a bunch of money. Scottie D, who's your MVP of the week, man?
Usain Bolt. He's going to be 30.
Boy, I'll tell you. But see, this is why you will never be Kornheiser, because of your shenanigans right there. That's exactly why we will not be Kornheiser and Mike Wilbon. Right there.
Okay.
But we're not designed that way. They're the standard bearer. But I'm going to tell you right now, we are a completely different breed. We are the Sports Bros podcast, by the fan, for the fan. Yes, sir.
All right. I'll go with the MVP of the week will be Jim Herman, a guy who I had never heard of until this past weekend. He won the Wyndham Championship, which used to be the Greater Greensboro Open PGA event. It was only his third career win, but it puts him in the FedEx Cup playoff. So Jim Herman, the MVP, for winning that event that a lot of guys overlooked because the hangover of the PGA Championship. So that's my guy for the week, Jim Herman.
All right, so we got Jim Herman, Carmelo Anthony, and Yusuf Nurkic. Hey, guess what, fellas? That's a new segment, the MVP of the week. I'm going to a classic segment, but guess what? They're giving me the go-home cue. I'm going to try my best not to slip around third base and go home with these brand-new cleats. I'm going to try to do a stand-up inside the park home run and not tear my ACL, my PCL, my MTL, my ATL, my BT. Well, you know the hell I mean.
No, we don't know what you mean.
You know the knee got 90 ligaments, fool. ACL, MCL, PCL, LCL, WCW, NWO, AME. Man, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to put the train back on the tracks because I got off. We going home, fellas. It's another round of Pepper, 3 topics, rapid fire style. We know how we do it. Scottie D and B Live, they'll be talking about current sports, but you know what? I love giving you guys a history lesson. Yes. I had an idea for some current stuff, but I'm like, nah, let me give you some history stuff. And on this day in 1915, the Braves field opens in Boston to see the then Boston Braves beat the St. Louis Cardinals 3-1. Good old senior circuit baseball back in 1915. Over to you, Scottie D.
And they were playing in front of people. That must have been nice.
Yeah, they played in front of people.
All right. So you may have seen this story going around the Golf Channel last week in the U.S. Amateur match where Tyler Strafacci was tied with Segundo Oliva Pinto on the 18th hole. Pinto hit his ball into the sand trap, and his caddy put his hand in the sand trap and rubbed it, costing him the match. The caddy said he did not touch the sand, but he did. It was clear as day on the TV camera that he reached in and rubbed his finger through the sand, and that is a violation. You are not allowed to touch the bunker with your hand, and if your caddy does it, you are responsible. So even though he wasn't directly involved, that cost him the hole, and Pinto therefore lost that match. That's a weird rule because I don't know if touching the sand is that much of an advantage any more so than picking up the grass and letting the wind blow it to see that. But it's a rule, and if you're a caddy, you got to know that rule, and that sucks. So sorry, Oliver Segunda Oliva Pinto, but your caddy screwed you last week. B-Lab, over to you.
So, yeah, good job there, guy. But I have unfortunate news that I actually thought was already news, but it became official today, Monday. Um, the Canadian Football League canceled its 2020 season
Oh
today.
no.
And citing what Commissioner Randy Ambrose said would have been significant financial losses if the league had played during the coronavirus pandemic. One thing that's been going on in Canada, which is probably helping them with coronavirus, is that they have a lot of strict restrictions when it comes to um, sporting, live events, and all stuff like that. It's partly the reason why the Toronto Blue Jays are playing in Buffalo, because how do you kick an entire baseball team out the country? But hey, that's what happened.
Yeah.
But the league had developed preliminary plans for a shortened season based in Winnipeg in a bubble environment, but the Canadian government rejected the CFL's request for a $30 million loan to help fund it.
Ugh.
Yikes. Well, so no CFL. You shall be missed by few. Eddy Kool, the ball.
Man, I can't watch my BC Lions or the Argos or the Double Blue. Well, anyways, you got American football coming up. You're talking to a champion of the Canadian Football Fantasy Football League. Yeah, I did it. I got a title for that. Yeah, 2 titles, 2 countries. I feel like Chris Jericho would have won both belts that night. But in this day, in 1980, George Brett, his batting average, guess what he did? 400. Yes, he hit 400 degrees. I'm thinking about Juvenile. 400 degrees. I'm keeping that in. On this day, he hit 400 for his batting average. But he finished the season with a 390 batting average. Hey, man, look. George Brett, pine tar and all, he was good at what he did. He knew how to put the bat to the ball and make it go somewhere and have a high average. Because I think the highest he ever averaged for career home runs was 30, and that's it. George Brett reaching 400, only to drop that down to 390. One of the best hitters of all time. Over to you, Scottie D.
And that would have been cool if it had hit that 400 mark.
Yeah.
I'm going to help a guy out here. So this past weekend, you may have seen that Ohio State quarterback Justin Fields is putting up the petition, trying to get the Big Ten to reconsider and reinstate the college football season. Christopher O'Shaughnessy has a son named Michael who's a punter at Ohio State. He signed the petition, and here was his quote: "If you're telling us it's not safe for our kids to be either in the practices or in the games, tell us why. We want to know. If we're supposed to be protecting our kids from something, we want to know what that is." And I'm going to help Christopher O'Shaughnessy by telling him to Google COVID-19. Be live, over to you.
Wow.
Scottie D is the gift that keeps on giving.
Google COVID-19. That's where we're going to get all of our facts from. I won't do it this week. All right. So we talked earlier about UFC and about the Sugar Show being canceled. And we talked about there was a significant injury that Sean O'Malley suffered. During the show, I did a little research, and I figured it was pepper-worthy because I want to describe the injury to you. It was a leg kick directly onto right common peroneal nerve, resulting in inability to dorsiflex ankle, an increasingly common attack in MMA. Hashtag sweep the leg. This came from Coach John Kavanaugh. And in layman's terms, it's called dead leg, where you strike an opponent on the calf and you strike them directly in the nerve, the peroneal nerve that connects the knee bone, connect to the thigh bone. No, it's actually down toward your ankle. But basically, he could not operate his he could not operate his leg, his foot, and everything. So it was one of those things where he could not plant on his right foot. Balance gone. Sorry about what happened, but that's the sport of MMA, UFC. It's common. You got to protect. You got to protect the legs. That's the only. You can't win a fight if you don't have a leg to stand on. Doom. Eddy Kool. The ball.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I was listening to this big podcast about crime in sports, about Oscar Pistorius, and the leg jokes were abound. And anyways, I'm not even going to go there. Scottie D, I got some good news for you, Scottie D, about your Pittsburgh Pirates. It's a historical milestone, and you're going to love this one. On this day in 1943, Roberto Clemente was born. Yes, the legendary Puerto Rican baseball player Roberto Clemente, who played his entire career with the Pittsburgh Pirates. He passed away in a plane crash, if I'm not mistaken, doing some good old humanitarian work. And his work was so great, and Clemente was so revered that they currently have an award named after him, entitled the Roberto Clemente Award. See, Scott, I thought I was going to find something good about the Pirates.
That was the last time they were any good, I think. It was right before that plane went down.
Oh, man. Over to you, B-Live.
For that? I'm getting...
He's getting skipped. We don't want to hear... he doesn't have any more points.
I do. I have one more.
I'm playing. Over to you, Scottie D.
All right. Here's my last one. This is going to be a quick one. The SEC conference, they unveiled their football schedule over the last day or so. If you'd like to see that, you can go online. Here's the Big Ten schedule. Be Live, over to you.
Wow. Burn. It's right. That's right along with the Pac. Is that right along with the Pac-12 schedule?
Yeah, I announced them both simultaneously.
Nice. And Justin Fields is not having it. He started a petition actually to try to reinstate the Big Ten season. He says he wants that Heisman. He wants a chance, but that's neither here nor there. They got to let them fight that out, which I think is ridiculous. But it's all right. My bad. See, I said I wasn't going to do that.
He's going to stop.
So, my third and final pepper point. We've been talking about it all show. Maybe, like I said, Portland Trail Blazers is growing on me. We did not give him the MVP of the Week award, but the NBA and the writers gave Dame Dollar a unanimous selection for NBA Bubble MVP. All Damian Lillard all he did in the bubble was average 37.3 points, 9.6 assists, 4.3 rebounds, shooting 49.7% from the field, 43.6% from three-point distance in 8 games. Devin Booker was second in MVP voting with 19 second-place votes. Damian Lillard got all 22 first-place votes. And for the NBA All-Bubble first team, Dame Dollar, Devin Booker, Luka Doncic, James Harden, and T.J. Warren make the first team. NBA All-Bubble second team, Giannis Antetokounmpo, yes sir, I said it right, Kawhi Leonard, Kristaps Porzingis, Karis LeVert, and Michael Porter Jr. So guess who didn't make first team or second team? None of them Lakers. Oh. And also I want to mention that, man, I feel for the Phoenix Suns. They went 8-0 in the bubble, but just couldn't make it. Just had too much ground to recover. But hats off to them, man. They played
next year, though, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This is definitely a building block for next year. Absolutely. So, man, hey, get you some rest. Continue to train Phoenix. We will be talking about you next year, bruh. Yes, sir.
in the ever-competitive Western Conference. That's been another round of pepper. And guess what? It's been another entertaining episode of the Sports Bros Podcast, episode number 72. Oh, Senior Menorah. Haha, I got his name right. With that being said, we finna get up out of here. Yep, him too. We finna get up out of here because I smell some dinner cooking. I'm ready to watch some wrestling. Be Live, where can they find us?
All right, check it out. Where you can find me, and nope, you can't find me there. Travel restrictions, but you can find me here in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Max Speed Shop is where I work all day, every day. They let me go early today so I could be here on the podcast, but I think I'm actually going to go back there just to make sure everything's okay. But check us out, 482 North McPherson Church Road. Also check us out on beermenus.com, where you can find all of our 5011 beers on draft bottles and can. And we're about to have wine on draft too. Ooh, interesting. So figure out how all that works. But we're doing some big things at Max Speed Shop, home of the best burgers, brisket, pulled pork, barbecue, all of that. Man, I'm fat. I need to hit a treadmill. But check this out. When it comes to the Sports Bros Podcast, you can check us out on our Facebook like page, Sports Bros Podcast. Still looking for those recommendations. We greatly appreciate it. It helps us out with basically with ratings, and we're trying to grow into a bigger brand. And it's about the fans, baby. We love you, and I'm telling you, you grow with us. I'm trying to tell you this is what we do. You can find us on Instagram, Sports Bros Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Sports Bros PCast. Have any comments, questions about the show, shoot us an email real quick, sportsbrospcast@gmail.com. You can find some of our literary writings, some of our sports stories and articles on our WordPress website, thesportsbrospodcast.wordpress.com. Check out our YouTube channel. Got some vintage episodes and video clippage of what we do. A little bit of Tron Kilo Thursdays, Scott's thoughts, and what happened. Wait for it. Pause. It was Wednesdays. It'll be any time I decide to throw something at you. But we want to keep the entertainment flowing, man. Hey, appreciate all the support. Thank you all very much. To all the voices out there, man, we greatly appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Scottie D, where can they find you?
Wow.
Like you sound surprised. We do this every single week.
Yeah. Hey, I know. Hey, guys, thank you all for listening to us. We do greatly appreciate you. B-Live said we'd like to be a bigger brand, and that comes just from you guys sticking with us and telling other people about us and sharing us, because we really do want to just have some fun with you. And so we greatly appreciate you. Reach out to us anytime on Facebook. Give us a suggestion for Choices of the Voices if you have one, or anything else like that. But check us out on Facebook. That's where most often I can be found. That and the golf course here in dried up, browned up Western Pennsylvania. Thanks for listening, everybody. Eddy Kool, what's the door?
Yep, we finna get up out of here. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Sports Bros Podcast. Fellas, I got a little preoccupied. I was reading an article about the Baltimore Barracuda, not the Barracudas, but the Baltimore Stallions winning the 1995 Grey Cup, and I think that was a integral part in getting the Baltimore Ravens to come to Baltimore. But that's neither here, that's neither there. I might write a little story about it. You never know. And then closing, do something nice for yourself. You know what I forgot to tell people where they can reach me at.
I was wondering where you was going. I was like, all right, well, fine.
All right, here we go. I'm the HOC of this thing, Eddy Kool. You can find me in all the Sports Bros Podcast platforms that the almighty B-Live mentioned. I'll be on Snapchat. If you do that, Super Cool 5000. On Instagram, Cool Season, all one word. Check out my articles on our Sports Bros Podcast WordPress website. You can check it out too. Everything you need to see the Sports Bros Podcast related is in the link in the description box. You can go ahead and click the link and see these faces, especially that funny graphic we had last week with the poison graphic. That was hilarious. So if you like those graphics, share them, let us know, and we'll keep on doing what we do because we do it for you. And then closing, do something nice for yourself. And if you can, do something nice for someone else. They'll greatly appreciate it. Hey, be a burden and not a blessing, okay? It's been another episode of the Sports Bros Podcast.
Ho. No, you mean be a blessing, not a burden?
Yeah, ain't that what I said? Be a blessing, not a burden?
That's not what you said.
Well, anyways, we getting the hell up out of here. Bye. See y'all later. And I'm keeping it in there.
Birthday, you.
Bye.
Bloopers, and more bloopers. Check this out.
But I apologize. You can't kick me off the show. You invited me on the show. Oh, what did it?
And he left. I got tired. And he got left. He said, "That's okay. I'll leave." Oh, God. That was hilarious.
Oh, man. I don't think that was intentional, but the timing was
That was just perfect. It was just perfect.
Oh, God. That has to make the outtakes.
Yep, and I'm glad Scottie D waited till the second half of the podcast to do that.
Now, the $1 million question, was that intentional or not?
What, when I dropped the mic?
Yeah.
What was the last thing you heard me say? Standard bearers?
And then be live talking, and then be like, well, I'm bombastic. I'm not leaving. And then you leave the call.
Oh, no, I didn't hear any of that. It went. I guess it's week now where I just go blank, and then that was it. After standard bear, I heard no response, and I was like, all right, I'm out again.